So now that you know what sentence completion questions are, so now what? Well, now I'm going to talk to you about sentence completion strategy. And this strategy should be used every time. This is why the wheels in your head should start to turn. These 4 steps should be applied to all sentence completion questions. As you get better, the wheels in your head will start to turn faster and supernaturally, and you will be a rock star at sentence completion strategy. But for now, since we're just starting out, I want you to take your time and really work through each step. Now get your pencil ready because I want you to take some notes in your notebook. I want you to write down each of these steps as we go through them right now. Step 1. Play detective. This step means to read the sentence carefully in search of the context clue. All sentence completion sentences will have clues in the sentence that will give you a logical idea of what the word in each blank should mean. Clues might be a description of the blank or imply a relationship between the blank and something else given in the sentence. Sometimes when there are 2 blanks, the clues give you the sense of a relationship between the words in the 2 blanks. Now you should circle or underline the context clue or clues that you find. This will help you with the next step. For example, in the following sentence completion problem, can you find the context clue? This novel portrays Mr. Jensen as a blank teacher, warmly praising his students one day and coldly criticizing them the next. In this example, you might underline warmly praising and coldly criticizing. Step 2. Fill in the missing pieces. After you've played detective and identified the context clues, try to quickly come up with the word that will fill in the blank. Try to come up with the word that will make sense in the blank in relation to the clues you found. Let's go back to our sample problem. We form an expectation of what we think the word should be before we even look at the answer choices. Pay attention to the context clues we found. They will indicate the meaning of the word in the blank. What word fits best in this blank? When you read this sentence, ask yourself, what kind of person gives warm praises one day and cold criticism the next? A weird psycho one for sure. But you can be a weird psycho for lots of reasons. Really here, try to think of a word that specifically describes someone who changes from praise to criticism all the time and not just a general word like weird or psycho. Try to be specific as possible. And no, the word is not mom. I'm just kidding. I'm sure your mom is wonderful. Well, let's say the word you expect is the word volatile. This makes sense because volatile means changing and inconsistent. Someone who seems way nice one day and then way mean the next day is definitely the poster boy for this word volatile. But what if you couldn't think of a good word? That's okay. Don't waste too much time. If you couldn't think of one word that will fill in the blank, but you do know the general concept of what would fill in the blank, just write the phrase or concept that describes what you think will fill in the blank. For example, instead of volatile, you might have written changes his mind a lot. That's great too, as long as you are able to form an idea of the meaning of what the word should be in the blank. Furthermore, if you are still struggling to come up with a word or phrase, that's okay too. But if this is the case, then try to at least quickly decide if the blank is a positive thing or a negative thing. This will help you eliminate answer choices and give you a good place to start guessing. Go ahead and jot in a positive or a negative sign over the blank. Let's see. A teacher that praises you one second and yells at you at the next does not sound like a good thing. Let's go ahead and make a negative sign over the blank in order to signify that the blank is a negative item. So why do this step? It might seem like a complete waste of time because why don't you just look at the answers first and then see which one fits, right? Well, this is why. Think about it. How many times have you circled a multiple choice answer because after you looked at it, you thought that it just sounded right? Maybe you didn't think of it until you saw it, but once you did see it, you said, hey, yeah, that'll work. And later, when you found out that not only was it wrong, but it totally distracted you from getting the right answer, which you totally would have got if you hadn't been distracted by that wrong answer. Well, this happens all the time, and test makers know it. It's called the power of suggestion. And test makers love sticking in false, fake decoys that might sound like they might be the right answer, but are actually not correct. This is a pitfall that you need to sidestep. And the best way to do this is to form an expectations of the words you're looking for before looking at the answer choices. Step 3, identify the suspect. Up to this step, you should not have yet read the answer choices. But now that you have formed your expectation for the blank, read the answer choices individually and consider how they would affect the meaning of the sentence. So now you can see the answer choices. Often, many words can possibly make sense for the sentence. However, you are looking for the word that fits best in terms of being implied by the clues given in the rest of the sentence. In our example above, you may consider the following. Was Mr. Jansen an indifferent, uncaring, or mediocre teacher? Well, not necessarily. Maybe he was, but hey, maybe he wasn't. We don't know if he cared about his job, and because of that, indifferent is not a word that is implied by the rest of the sentence. We just don't know. Let's move on. Was Mr. Jensen an objective, fair, and impartial teacher? Again, you don't know. Maybe he was, but there are no clues that really indicate one way or the other. So again, not a great answer. Let's move on. Was Mr. Jensen an unpredictable teacher? Ooh, definitely. A man who praises one day and criticizes the next is clearly unpredictable, because nobody can tell what he's going to do next. In fact, unpredictable means the same thing as our expectation word of volatile. So this already sounds like a really good candidate for the right answer. But we can't circle it yet, not without looking at the other choices. I mean, you wouldn't just date the first cute boy you met in class, would you? No way. You'd at least take a look around to see if there are any cuter boys, right? We have to make sure that there are no better answer choices. So let's move on. Now, answer choice D. Was Mr. Jensen an ineffectual teacher? Ineffectual here just means the same thing as ineffective. Again, we have no clue. Well, not really anyway. You might think, whoa dude, I wouldn't learn well with a teacher like that. Probably he's not an effective teacher. But honestly, given the information you have, you just really don't know. Maybe Mr. Jensen is a wonderful teacher in other ways. Maybe he's really interesting and engaging. My point is, maybe he is an effective teacher. So this isn't the best answer either. Let's look at answer choice E. Was Mr. Jensen an unobtrusive teacher? Unintrusive here means unnoticeable or low profile. Like before, we don't know. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. So this isn't such a hot answer choice either. Looks like the best answer is C, unpredictable. Step number 4, replay the crime. So any detective knows that it's important to replay the crime in order to make sure all the pieces fit and make sense. After you identify your choice, your suspect, repeat the sentence in your head with the answer choice in the blank. Does the sentence make sense? Do the clues support your answer choice? If so, you've solved the crime. Let's replay our sample sentence together. This novel portrays Mr. Jensen as an unpredictable teacher, warmly praising his students one day and coldly criticizing them the next. The sentence sounds correct. Unpredictable makes sense with our context clue.